Across the street, maybe has a.
Orthopedic issues, maybe stop eating, so.
And so how's everything else doing?
So it was bad doctors, because we had back going on, all of a sudden,
Up against that pond.
so I take him, he got kids to that hospital, he got pneumonia. So when he came home, the other doctor
It's time to
was
go.
gone.
You're like,
So.
blew the whistle, whatever you
A little bit, right? At the end of antibiotics, it's only about 80%, so I'm hoping to turn or something.
Am I running
What is it?
Are you guys ready to get
Okay.
Alright, is everybody ready?
Here you go.
I know, I'm gonna miss my dinner, I'm gonna have to eat some
Alright, here we go.
cereal.
Thank you everybody for that brief rest break, that was great. Okay, so our next item agenda is discussion regarding process to review Cheyenne Mountain High School team name and mascot. So, I would like to just start by saying that we have heard from so many people in the community, which has been fantastic, because in my opinion, I mean, all of us agree that community engagement is what makes this district the special place that it is. I think we've also heard a lot of comments about, what's happening in our world right now with COVID, with our education system. As we've had our hour-long discussion about what needs to happen going forward, I would like to just suggest that we pay attention to what is happening in our community and allow people who feel like they have more to say about this, who are all members of our community, to have the time to say that, what they need to say. I know that we have thought for so long about this issue. Some of us for years, depending on how long we've been on the board or what our own histories are. But other people have not, and a lot of people in our community, parents, especially in our parent communities, with who I've been here from as well, really feel like this did come as a surprise to them because they have not been thinking about it and hearing about it for as long as we have. So I would like to suggest that we, at the very least, give our community members time to respond and think about and get in touch with us in a way that they can't now because of COVID, and bring this back for discussion on like March 1st would be my suggestion. I'm just wondering what you guys think.
You know, I mean, I feel like the issue has presented itself and it needs to be dealt with. But I'm also sensitive to the fact that there are people who don't believe we've had an opportunity to do it. I would say, I would like to put a hard date on it and not allow for further delays. Like, yes, COVID's probably not gonna be away by March 1st, but still people will have had a number of months to process the information and give us their feedback. So, I could be in agreement with March 1st.
Randy, Lisa?
Well, I'm hearing a couple of things, and I think they deserve different levels of attention. We've already sort of gotten there. And what is there is the team name, and then there's all the other sort of ceremony traditions and naming pieces that we have. And to me, I still like the idea of separating those two out. What I'm also hearing is that we do need a process so that, you know, regardless of the decision we make, what is the path moving forward, and giving that due time. So I'm with Susan on putting a hard date on it in the spring. I mean, you know, I shared with you my thoughts on, and you know, Susan helped with that, on how do we better engage the community, because so far it's spreading through word of mouth, or social media, and you know, we're being told all the things that we don't know, but we have been thinking about this a long time. And so in order to do ourselves and our community justice, I do feel like we need to share the information that we're utilizing. We need to continue to be open to the comments, and to let people express themselves. And, you know, I feel like we can do it in a more inclusive way, a more respectful way, because I also think we need to lead on this issue. And there's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of finger pointing, and I don't know that any side is doing themselves any justice with the name calling, and I don't know how we get that to stop. I mean, we're being called names in all of this, and I don't find that to be very helpful moving the conversation forward. So my letter was an attempt to shift the tone to share your personal experience, because the finger pointing and the yelling is only undermining the whole conversation. And I feel like that's something that we can at least put out and ask for. I know I read every email. I know you guys read every email. I know we're all reading what Walt sends us and digging into the history. And it's, yeah, so I'm happy putting it off to the spring. I know we have to get our kids back in school. I know we have to hire a new superintendent.
Yes.
I also know we have to tackle this issue, and I don't feel comfortable passing the buck any longer. So not that anyone before us has passed the buck, right? I feel like we need to take some accountability and take some action.
Randy, Russ?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine, pushing that to the spring. I think it'd be probably helpful in terms of soliciting or at least informing future comment from the community to maybe, not use the resolution so much as a starting point to have more of a narrative that talks about basically the history on this issue. You know, I've been on the board for 5 years, and when I came on, you know, the board had been dealing with this 2-3 years prior. So, I mean, you know, for those that feel like this has been a reactionary thing that's, you know, come over a couple months, I think it's important for people to, you know, be informed on the history of the work that has been done at this point, and, you know, gotten to this point where we're gonna reconsider it again. So, I think, at this point, considering that the sole issue of the Indian name would be a good place to start, and, maybe dealing with a lot of stuff that was in that resolution after a decision is made around that Indian name in terms of additional imagery around that, any type of process that would be used if we did change the name, and, you know, just focus on, do we want to keep the Indian name or not? And these are the concerns that we have as a board, as to what would cause us to change that, and give people some talking points in terms of, we're open to suggestions. How do you think you can get a long-term fix for this problem? And, you know, one of the primary problems in my mind that is gonna be tough to get over this is, I understand that the mascot is a huge source of pride for a lot of our alumni. I'm not convinced it's a huge source of pride for our current student body. And I don't know what the split on that is, and honestly, that's the one piece that I would like to be more informed on it. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing a survey sent out to the students, and it would be important to make up clear that this isn't a vote. It's not gonna be a 51-49 thing, but I'd like to get a sense of what the level of division is in the high school, of what percentage of people aren't proud of that mascot and can unify around it. And that would inform my decision. I feel like that's the one piece of information I don't have at this point, because, you know,
Well, and it's not a mascot, it's a team name. Our students don't have a mascot.
and so, in any case, that's kind of one thing I would like to see happen prior to March 1st. But yeah, I think I totally get that, the community feels like this has been rushed and got caught off guard, and I've got no problem tabling this for 4 months, so everybody can be heard, and we can take our time and make an informed decision. I mean, this mascot's been around 80 years, and certainly giving it adequate consideration is not asking too much.
Thank you. Looks like Randy has something he wants to read.
No, I'm just reading the correspondence that was sent to us by our colleagues, and
Do you have thoughts that you'd like to share?
on September 14th, you'll recall, I said I thought we needed to get a more level knowledge of the topic, and so I think that is important to do. I think that community at large, students, faculty, parents, alumni, and even beyond, have different levels of knowledge, and the correspondence that Nissa and Susan have drafted is a good start to help share some of what might be thought about. There's maybe some editing I would suggest, and we can do that offline privately and not have to be taking everybody's time, but I think that the goal I suggested, September 14th, is in fact necessary and important for all of us, and we all have different levels at this board of that knowledge, and you know, I have a whole lot of different knowledge being a graduate and a 50-year resident of this district, so or more, and so, you know, I don't have all the knowledge either. There's still things I'm learning. I think what we've been seeing by the communication we've received tonight and in other correspondence has been informative to me and to, I suspect, to all of you. So I do very much have concern about the fact that this is occurring during a pandemic. We just talked about the most significant issue for all of us, and that is to get these kids educated and get them into the school. So I want to not at all diverge away from that number one priority with this. So I'm comfortable with more time. I don't know what you mean by March 1, because that's not a date we have normally in our calendar, but I think a date for the public to know that we expect their communication with us to come in by. Perhaps we would meet then with our work session on the 9th of March that's currently scheduled based on what I've looked at from our calendar, and then we could
We have a meeting at
consider,
the end of the month.
we would have a meeting after what is spring break, so I think all of those kinds of things make sense. If for some reason on the 9th of March, we have a different set of thoughts and we need more information, we can make that decision at that time. But I think it is important to have a date certain that the public can then communicate with us. So I would support that, and I'd like to work a little bit on the letter offline. I think that's an important communication. Thank you for all the work you ladies have done on it and whoever else contributed. So I would support that approach.
Okay, thank you. I also like the idea of sharing, Walt has given us so much information, and I think you guys are right. Like, we have been dealing with this as a board for, you know, as long as he's been on the committee and longer, the governor's committee. But the information that you collected and gave to shared with all of us was so useful, and I think it would be helpful for our constituents to be able to see some of that information as well, if not all of it. I mean, I loved some of the stuff. There were two things that I had never seen before, and I was fascinated by them. I really appreciated the depth to which you dove to find all that information and put it together for us.
What were those pieces?
I had never seen the videos.
Oh,
And, I can't remember his name, Mr.
Dr. Holman.
Yeah, what was it?
Dr. Holman?
Yes, I hadn't seen that
Paul
either.
Holman.
I've read so many of those kivas just from my dissertation work, but yeah, that was so thank you guys for offering that up and being agreeable to that.
I think for me, it's really important to put out, there is somehow some messages that have gotten out that people have rallied around that are not at all true. And the idea that this is coming from outside of our community when we know it started from our community, and that we have heard equally and passionately and articulately and respectfully from both sides of the debate. And so this is a community conversation that does take place in a larger context, but I feel like that is an important piece for us to share, because I continue to want us to have a more engaged conversation, more than the level that we're getting right now. And I truly, the fact that so many people have been willing to comment is remarkable. And to Russ's point, let's channel some of that energy into, really productive things. I happen to believe that this is equally important right now, in our context, and I do think it's a priority, and I do think we owe it to our students to resolve the issue one way or another.
Okay, anything else?
So are you looking for a motion?
No? We can act on this the way that we want to.
Okay.
Thank you. Set and announce meeting dates?
So, along that line, to Randy's point, do we need to do anything differently about meeting dates in March? If you're gonna, if the consensus is you are going to not take any action anytime before March, not that you would have to do it in March either, you can always move it back, but is there anything that we need to change on the schedule? Remember, spring break, right, happens, so we move, I doubt very seriously that any of those site visits are going to happen. I just don't see that in the cards for us.
Not even virtually? Would we do that virtually? Too hard?
I think that would be.
Crickets over Zoom versus
Yeah,
crickets
yeah,
against.
I guess that would be really challenging.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe even just a meeting with the leadership team?
we can do.
Okay.
They're Zoom warriors by this time, they get it, they can pull that off.
So I said March 9th, but it's March 8th in the current
Right.
calendar, so I would suggest that there's no need for change.
So that's your work session, and then, we come back off of spring break to that Monday, March meeting.
Yep.
And then, so what you may want to think about is, because we don't have any statutory requirements in March, right? I mean, every budget hearing, any of that sort of stuff. Given that you don't have to decide it tonight, but given that's the Monday coming back off of that week out for spring break, you may wanna think about actually taking that March meeting and moving it to that first Monday in April.
Because,
I mean, that's just an option for you if you need time between your normal time between the work session and meeting has a week break thrown into it.
Yeah.
That you don't typically have.
spring break's canceled
You
anyway, so.
may or may not need it, I was just, you have that option to set those dates if you want.
Okay. I think that's a good amount of time, and if we ask for feedback and response by March 1st, and we have a work session and we have a meeting, I think that gives us plenty of time to respond to whatever new information might come in. It gives our constituents a lot of time to provide that feedback. Taking aside the holidays, I mean, I think there's still plenty of time after the new year. Okay. So for now, we'll leave it the way it is, and if we decide we need more time,
Okay,
we'll have it.
so my calendar.
And Randy, you're like the one who always catches dates on here, is there anything that you saw?
No,
Okay.
You fixed it last time. No, my calendar is out, really related to it, so,
Anybody else? have
we're
anything?
keeping the work session next week.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to get a draft survey on the
Russ, you look like you were gonna say something?
conceptual.
I figured it out myself.
All right, this meeting is adjourned, thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.